Hey, hello everybody.
Hello.
Um, Here we are again with another Frontity talk. I'm JuanMa and I'm part of the developer relations team in Frontity.
And I'm Michael. I'm also on the developer relations team at Frontity.
Good. Okay, so what we are going to explain today is something that appeared in the community forum in the last weeks, and there were some questions about how to debug Frontity apps. So we are going to show that, and also we are going to give a brief explanation of the isomorphic nature of Frontity apps. That means that the React code, the React app, will be used both in the server side and in the client side. We will show a diagram to explain this better, but this is important um, for debugging purposes, because there will be some parts that will be executed in the server and there will be some parts that will be executed in the client side, in the browser. So we can debug both parts. So what we can do is I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to share my screen and let's review before doing a practical example of how to debug this. Let's review a little bit the whole picture of a Frontity app. Um, so here we have the client side and here we have the server side. Let me zoom in this a little bit. Can you see this properly?
Yep, that looks good to me.
Okay. Okay, so in the server side, whenever there is a request of a page, all the engine starts start to work, and Frontity will make use of the React app to generate in runtime the HTML that will be returned to the client, to the browser that requested a specific URL. So this process will be executed on the server, and the React components, there will be some part of the code in those React components that will be executed in the server. And this execution is used to generate this HTML. Once the HTML is served to the browser renders that page and starts a second process in the browser that is called hydration. So the HTML is loaded, then the JavaScript is also required and loaded, and when that and when that JavaScript is loaded, then the React application uh, launch a process called hydration. That is something like from the HTML return, uh, the React components are assembled in every specific portion of that HTML. So from that point, React takes control of the application. And this is the part where the React components are executed again, but only on the client side. So, for example, all the code you put in the use effect hook of React components will be executed only in this phase. That portion of code won't be executed in this phase.
The way you've got that grey box there that says page viewable, the page is
Mhm.
also navigable at that point, isn't it? You can actually click the links, but before hydration occurs, it would force a page reload.
Mm, yes, I think so. I haven't do the test. I don't know. I don't know if the links will work because the I guess that the links are expected to be handled by React. That's a good question. We can do the test,
Yeah, I think they
but
still have the href attribute. So before
mhm,
hydration occurs, I think if you clicked a link, it would still work, but would
I
work
guess
as a
so.
normal HTML page and request from the server again until the
Yes,
hydration occurs, and
I
then you
think you're
then,
right.
then React would handle it and do the prevent default and so on.
Yes, I think you're right.
Mm.
Also, because this way of creating a site or this way of delivering a site is important for SEO purposes
Mm.
because this HTML is the one that will be indexed, will be used by the crawlers to index your site. So I guess you're right. This HTML should appear as a typical HTML with all the links and all the connections
Yeah,
between the pages.
and then when React takes over and hydration occurs, then it does the e.prevent default on the links, and
Exactly,
React
exactly.
handles the links itself.
Yes, yes, exactly. Okay, so now that we have the whole picture, let's do a a test of this.
Cool.
So here we have a demo project that I just created using Mesh theme, and what we can do is open this in the we can open this in the in your IDE in Visual Code, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Visual Code. And first, let's do the debug in the server side. In fact, there is something that we can do. We can use like the most simple way to debug is using messages in the console, in the terminal. So let's do that first. Those messages will be displayed. I mean, the console.log method is recognized by either the server engine and by the browser engine. So it will be executed in both. So let's use, for example, the header
Can I make that
here.
just a little bit bigger for the video, Juanma?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay. So the header, this is the part. Let me execute this so we can npx frontity dep. It creates the bundles and then it launches the application. Okay,
Yeah,
so
awesome.
we have this, and the header. This is this part. The test Frontity block and um, this
Okay.
description and the mobile menu and so on. So this will be used by the node, uh, like the server side, to generate this HTML. If we go and check the source code, there is some part that it
Yeah,
belongs
that
to
needs to be
the
made a bit bigger as well.
yes,
Mm.
and also here, yes, Frontity. uh,
That's all your styles, isn't it? That.
hmm, But here we have the HTML of the header, test
Mm,
HTML block, and this is the description with an h4. So this is the HTML. So
mhm.
this is used by the server to generate this part. So if we add a console log here, um, hello from the code. I'm just going to add, yes, you're right. That was what happening. Yeah, the bundle was regenerated, but you're right. We need to require, yes,
There you go.
we can see the message here, and you're right. We can see that here, and we can see that here.
So that's
So,
something to bear in mind when you're debugging on the server, that just changing the code, which refreshes in the browser,
mhm,
doesn't, you still actually need to do a page reload for any messages to show up in the terminal.
yes, yes. When you change the code, what what happens is that the bundles are generated again, and the browser is reloaded, but not the server side. So if you
Mm,
want to debug something in the server side, then indeed you have to reload that page. So this process goes for follows the whole workflow there.
exactly right. Yeah.
Okay, so we have the first example, a piece of code that is executed in both the server side and in the client side. Let's do an example of something that is executed only on the client side. And we are going to use the use effect. And what I'm going to do is use effect console log. And we are going to use a message hello only for the client side. And let's do the test.
Now you need to do a complete page refresh.
Exactly. Let's clean
Sh
the messages in the console. And when
mhm,
we reload the page, we shouldn't see the message here, but we should see this message in the browser's console.
mhm.
Okay.
Yep,
So here we have the message that has been executed in both the server side and the client side. But here we can see this message because of the portion of code that has been executed only in the client side. Hello only for the client side.
which is the everything contained in the use effect.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, and now this is like the easiest way of the debugging, like using console logs. Uh, Second thing we can do is adding using the um, debugger term or
Statement.
statement. Yes.
Mhm.
So first, let's use that in the client side. I mean, if we use this directly here, for example, let's say const name equals Frontity. Name app Frontity. And we add a debugger here.
Maybe we should just explain that what debugger does is actually pauses execution of the code so that you
Mhm.
can gives you a chance to inspect the state at that point of the execution.
Yes, debugger is a statement that stops the code in a specific place so we can inspect the values of the the execution of the code at that specific moment, at that
Mm.
specific point. But here there is an interesting thing happening because of what we have explained. This portion of the code has been executed in both the server side and the client side, but as we still don't have a way of capturing this debugging command in the server side, right now we are only seeing the application of this debugger command or statement in the client side. So this debugger is being applied here in this part right now. So the we are executing we are stopping the execution of the code in the client side execution.
Mm.
So now what we can do here is inspect the values of the elements. For example, here we can see the value, we can see Frontity. Uh, Also, the execution has been stopped at a specific point, and we can step over like little by little. We can run the process step by step. We can go to the next execution, and then we can do this. And I don't know if this has been, and we can go, and as you can see, we can go step by step through the different methods. What we can also do is watch specific things. For example, we can add here, we can add a specific property of the state, or this variable we have here, we can add it to the watch. So every time we debug, we can see directly that value. For example, if we want to check state dot source dot data.
Mhm.
So imagine we want to check directly dot data dot data, and we want to check directly the we want to check directly in every execution of the of the debug. We want to check the values for that link.
Mm.
So we are already watching this. We can resume the script execution. The the code continue, the process continue its execution. So right now, once that process has finished, we don't have available this information anymore. But if we reload, we stop the execution again here, and we can see here the values again. So
Mm.
we can use this debugger command in different places in the code, so we can stop the execution at different points, and we can also evaluate, we can also have a look at the values of the values. um, we can have a look at the yes, at the values um, at at those specific times.
Mm.
So this is another thing that we can do. Debugging using the debugger, the debugger statement in the client side.
Mhm.
But what happens if we want to debug in the server side? Because we want to check some values that may happen only in the server side. So this is a bit more complex, but it's not very difficult. So to do that, we need to launch the execution in a specific way. Let me copy the command. This is common for all the node applications. So we are going to apply that here as when we do this, we are actually launching a node application. We are doing a node and an internal file. So deb is an alias, is a script that is actually doing that in the background. Yes,
Mm.
I think it's this. Let me check this.
Mm.
Okay. Yes, this has been stopped here. So I'm going to resume the application. So this has launched this has executed the Frontity app in a way where we can listen to the debugger also in the server side. There are several ways to capture this in the same way that we have captured the debugger in the client side. We can do the same for the server side. And one way to do that is the going to Chrome. We can open here a new window. We can use this configuration section, and here we will have this we will have this available, and this inspect will launch like a developer tools specific for the server side. So whenever we use the debugger, this part will capture the debugger on the server side. So let's do the test. Let's do this. Let's is use debugger. Okay. And now it happened was what we wanted to do.
Cool.
This is the console. This is the developer tools assigned to the server side. So here we are stopping first the code in this part. And this is the debugger that is stopped in this part. We can resume the execution, and then the that React component is executed again in this hydration process, and the debugger is stopped again, but this time in the client side. So we can see how debugger can be used to also stop the code in the server side.
Mm.
If we use debugger here, we can say const a equals 23. Then this debugger will not be taken into account. Let me resume this. If I reload this, there will be if I resume this server side is not affected by this portion of the code um, because this use effect is only executed on the client side, but here the code has stopped.
Mm.
So the workflow has been the same, but the debugger has not been captured in this part, but it has been captured in this client side because
Yeah.
this use effect um, has only been executed in the client side. Okay, and now we have a third way of debugging apps in the of debugging apps, debugging server side executions. Let me stop this and let me clear this. That is by using Visual Code. Visual
Mm.
Code, we can install let me share with you. Okay. There is a extension of Visual Code that we can use to debug code in the server side. So we install that extension. It's called debug. I think I already have it installed here. We go to extensions and we look for debug. Yeah, Node debug,
Mm.
Node.js debugging support. We need to install this extension. Here there is a tutorial about how to do that.
We'll post that link in the description.
Yes, yes. And this should be pretty easy. We can launch this in Chrome preview.
Okay, I have to admit I haven't used this extension, so I'm
Mhm.
interested to see this.
Yes. So, well, there is a tutorial here about how to do that.
Hmm.
To simplify this, there are whenever you have that extension, you can kind of prepare your project to be debugged with Visual Code. And to do that, there is a button here that will create this launch JSON. And here in the important part is that you review the data to match with your project requirements. In this case, for example, we are launching the project in the 3000 port. So we modify that.
Hmm.
Once we have that, we can just launch the project. I don't think we don't need to do this. We can just do this. But as we have set these parameters here, we should be able to use these breakpoints here
Hmm.
and, for example, stop the code in this part.
Oh, I see. So you can just use the debugger in VS Code just like you would with client-side JavaScript,
Mhm.
and and put breakpoints and things in.
Yes.
Oh, that's a cool extension. I think I'll have to get that one.
I've missed. This one. Yes, this is the step that we were missing. Once we have launched the process by using any script or any way of launching the process, then we need to launch the the execution of the project that will be used for debugging purposes. I mean, once you have the whole project launched and is available in a specific URL, then you launch these specific channels or specific
Yeah,
ways
so
that
you need it open in two separate browser windows or tabs.
yes, yes, yes,
One
that's
is
the
the
key.
initial launch and one for the VS Code debugging.
Yes, and this Chrome, this specific Chrome, is the one that is linked to the debug. This
Yeah.
is stopped, and here we can inspect the elements. And this is cool because we can stop the code, and here we can do the same. We can watch specific variables, and we can inspect everything.
Mm.
We can inspect all the information that is available at this point, at this execution moment.
Hmm.
So that's all.
Okay,
We have
yeah, that was super interesting. Like I said, I haven't used that extension, so I'm going to
yes.
explore that.
Yeah, this is interesting when you are having issues with something to understand well what's going on. You need to stop the code at the specific moments and read the variables and read the values to try to understand what's happening.
Yeah, and really convenient to be able to debug node applications in VS Code in the same way that you would any other, code that
Yes,
runs in the
yes.
client.
Mhm. So yeah, we have explained like several ways of debugging, taking into account this diagram. We can use console.log to display messages in both the terminal, that will be the server side, or in the developer tools console, that will correspond to the client side. Then we can use the statement debugger to stop the code. By default, we can see the result of that debugger stop in the client side, but then we can also launch the application in a specific mode, so we can also capture that debugger in server side. And we have also reviewed a third way, that is using a specific IDE. We have seen how we can also debug Frontity apps by using Visual Code. And for that, we will need to install a specific extension and also launch the application by using the specific channel provided by the extensions. But once we have done that, we can add breakpoints and do the same that we can do with the other methods, with the other ways. We can
Mm,
uh, review the values of the variables and check the information that is available at that specific moment of the execution.
mm.
Okay,
Well, super
so
cool, right? I've definitely learned
that's it.
something there myself. So,
Yes. So
yeah,
yeah,
so
that's
thanks for showing that.
that's it. I'm going to stop sharing my
Hmm.
screen. So yeah, we will provide the links in the description of the video, and that's all. Any
Awesome.
more
That
questions?
was a good one. Yeah, like I said, I learned something there. So about debugging
Cool.
node applications. So yeah, so hopefully the rest of the Frontity community watching this will
Mhm.
pick up something from that as well. So
Yes. And yes, we can continue the conversation in the community forum if you are struggling debugging or your application. Feel free to share your problems in the community forum, and we will try to help you. And also, you can use this to try to solve your issues with your Frontity applications. Um, which if you are developing a custom theme or any other thing, you can use this to understand better what's going on.
awesome, awesome.
Cool.
Right,
Okay.
shall we wrap it up then?
Yes.
Right.
So
Right, thanks for joining us for this one. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and
mhm,
what is it? Click the bell for notifications. That's what
yes.
all the other vloggers say.
Yeah.
Well, are
And
we vloggers yet?
and share your love by giving us a star in the GitHub repository.
Oh
Is
yes,
that
yes. Please do that if you haven't
yeah?
already.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
right,
Thank
right,
you guys, and see you in another Frontity talk.
right. See you next time.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Bye guys. Bye.